in Accra. She's a chairperson of the Governing Council. We'll talk about what the agenda is or what the plan is. But before then, let's talk about the history. You went to Addis Ababa, the African Union, in 2012. Okay, you spent almost 5 years there. The AU, how relevant is it to us as a continent today?
I think the AU is very relevant, but it's as relevant as its citizens take it seriously. Because what happens at the AU, the heads of state gather, they discuss how to take the continental agenda forward. They agree, they go back, because the implementation is not at the AU level, it's at the head of state, at the state level. So member states, if they push the agenda, AU would be very relevant. But sometimes governments need to be pushed by their citizens. So I think it's important that citizens understand the decisions that are taken there and make sure that they are implemented at the member state level.
So that, as a commission, you were like the secretariat. That's what you are. So you come up with a policy and leave it for the member states to implement.
Yes.
Now, it was the same time that you adopted the agenda for the 5 decades of the AU.
Yes, that was the time.
That's Agenda 2063, right?
Yes, because it was from 2013 to 2063.
Okay, so it's not the age of AU that you were planning to celebrate. You are rather planning to celebrate from the day that you adopted that plan.
Let me give you the historic reason why the date.
Okay.
When I came to the AU in 2012, 2013, we were celebrating 50 years of the formation of the Organization of African Unity, the OAU.
OAU.
So there was a big celebration in 2013. And then I said, okay, what are we celebrating? What did the OAU do that we are celebrating? And we said they decolonized the continent, because other than Western Sahara, the continent was decolonized. And I looked back at the history. In 1945, in Manchester, there was a Pan-African Congress there, which involved Pan-Africanists from the continent, but also from the diaspora. And one of the decisions they took in 1945 was that Africa must be decolonized within 50 years.
That was the agenda.
That was the agenda. So the OAU's main agenda was to decolonize. And South Africa was decolonized on the 49th year, right? So then the question was, okay, we're coming here to celebrate the decolonization of Africa. When we come back in another 50 years, what will we be celebrating? What will be the agenda?
It won't be about colonialism.
No, it has to be about something else. And that's why I then said, we should be building the Africa we want, because the Africa we have is not the Africa we want. And the Africa we want can only be built by us. So maybe in the next 50 years, let's be building that Africa. So that in 50 years, 2063, when we come, we can say, this is what we have achieved beyond colonization.
So this Africa we want, were there themes or thematic areas, and were there specific tasks? Like, we have seen the Millennium Development Goals, 15 years. These are the timelines. This is what we expect to see. Then Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Each country be A, B, C, D, do A, B, C, D. Did we have that kind of timeline and themes for the Africa we want, for the continent-wide and member?
Yes. First of all, how was that agenda crafted? We had a wild wide consultation of different sectors from the continent. We consulted the youth, we consulted women, scientists, even trade unions, religious leaders. We consulted artists, almost every sector. We consulted and said, what is the Africa you want? So all of them made an input. We didn't sit in Addis and
decided for
them. It was a consultative process. Everyone made an input, and then we put that together. And that's what then formed the basis of this agenda. And we then said, okay, this agenda had 7 aspirations, and then we said, let's divide it into 10-year
implementation plan.
Implementation. So the first 10 years we put together. Then the second 10 years, I was not there anymore. But what we then were hoping that in the first 10 years, we could silence the guns.
I'm sure the guns are laughing at you.
Because you can't really have development
without peace.
When there's war, without peace. But equally, you can't sustain peace if there's no development. So we then said, let's see if we can silence the guns. And then we also said, we need to have the Africa Continental Free Trade amongst the things we have to do in the first 10 years.
So by 2023, there should be no wars or minimal wars on the continent. That's the silencing of the guns.
We were hoping that there shouldn't be war.
Okay.
And unfortunately, Sudan erupted after that. There was no war in Sudan at the time. Yes, in West Africa there was Boko Haram.
Somalia?
Somali, we were trying to
deal with it.
There was war in Sudan, but there was a process to try and get it sorted.
So you would say that the silencing of the gun, you did what, 80%, 70%?
Well, maybe those that were there at the time, we could say maybe 70%, but now they are new.
Coming up.
Like Sudan has come up.
Maintain it has been difficult.
But there are specific areas that if we really tried hard, we could, like the Eastern DRC is one of the problematic areas in terms of silencing the guns. Now Sudan. Of course,
the Sahel.
There's still even though it's less than what is happening in Sudan. Because in Sudan, it's really bad.
So, but you also had an agenda alongside silencing the guns to have the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Yes.
So that you have achieved.
In 2015, we launched the negotiations. And we said, by 2017, we must complete the negotiations. And most people laughed and said, she's naive. Trade negotiations take forever. So I said, well, it's not God-given that they take forever. It's us who take forever. So if we decide not to take forever,
we can do it.
We can do it. Indeed, it was done. By 2018, they were signing the agreement. And now it's in the process of being implemented.
So that's the one we have the secretariat here in Accra?
Yes. Ghana asked if the secretariat could be
So we are happy. There's a nice building. We have an AFTA. Except that you have a building, people occupying it. You say, I'm trying to remember the name of the leader. But the problem is that Togo and Benin don't trade.
Well,
Uganda and Kenya East Africa, they are better. But
I think they're doing, I wouldn't say perfect, but I think it's doing well.
The intra-trade.
Yes. For instance, now there's a Pan-African payment system. We don't have to trade with dollars.
Okay, but what currency would we use?
Your currency.
I'm buying something from Zimbabwe.
Pan-African payment system, go and study it. 17 countries are using it now. Not everybody yet.
Okay. So we are building it.
But 17 are using it. So there's progress. And something unique about the Africa Continental Free Trade is that they've developed a protocol specifically for youth and women, because we recognize that women and youth have different challenges from the mainstream traders. So that is addressing some of the issues. So, but again, it's up to member states
to implement it.
49 have ratified it. 17 are now using the Pan-African payment system. But we also need to trade, because we can't be trading on rock and dust. We must manufacture. And to manufacture, you need energy. So there are still a number of countries that don't have sufficient energy, which is a constraint in terms of putting up factories. So we need to attend to that. But we also just need to believe in ourselves and do things for ourselves. I'll make an example. There's been a discussion about the Inga Dam as a place where we can do hydroelectricity that can supply a number of countries. Mm-hmm. We've been singing about it since time immemorial, but we're waiting for outsiders to come and do it for us. And I'm saying, let's not wait for outsiders. Look at the Ethiopians with their Renaissance Dam. They did not wait for outsiders, they did it themselves.
Another thing we've been singing about in West Africa is having a common currency. For decades, that has been a failure. But what we succeeded with in West Africa is a common passport. Do we have a similar thing in East, South, and North Africa where, I mean, if I went to Nigeria, my passport looks just like the Nigerian, ECOWAS, then Ghana on it?
Yeah,
what's the plan?
I was there at the launch.
Okay.
It said a common ECOWAS passport, no bribes. No visa bribes.
Okay. That was overly ambitious.
I think it solved the problem of visa bribes.
Okay.
Yes.
But if you go through the roads...
I think it's a great thing. And that's what we were trying to do for the continent. Because in 2016, in Rwanda, at the summit there, the African passport was launched.
There's an African passport?
Yes, an African passport.
For every African citizen or for diplomats like yourself?
No. The one that was launched is for Africans.
Okay.
But because the AU does not know you, so it can't issue a passport to you. So we said every country must be the one that issues the passport to its citizens. It would be, and we used the ECOWAS model, that it would say African passport,
Uganda.
African passport, Chad. And they agreed. All the heads of state agreed. The Chadian president, may his soul rest in peace.
Idris Deby?
Deby. And the president of Rwanda,
Kagame,
stood there with their own passports. They had them. We had issued all the heads of state with the passports because we knew them. So they stood there and raised the passports. But countries are not issuing. Citizens are not saying anything. So you must have an active citizenry to move Africa, to build the Africa we want. It's not just governments. governments, business, citizens, everyone. You must ask yourself, what am I doing towards building the Africa we want?
The citizens you talk about, they are happy to get any visa other than the intracontinental visas. And I mean, I'm not generalizing, but I think generally that's what people would want. So they want to get out of the continent. They are not interested. Kwame Nkrumah said we should have one Africa, one president, maybe in Libreville, which is like the heart of the continent, or the other countries, like a federation of a sort. This is something he said many years ago. You have taught Africa. You have worked for Africa and worked in Africa. Are the citizens ready for a one Africa? Is that even possible practically?
The citizens, if the citizens were ready for one Africa, the Africa we will build would be an Africa they want to stay in, not the Africa they want to escape. So we need to have an environment where, even though we haven't built the Africa we want, citizens must have the view of wanting to fix Africa rather than escape Africa. But there are certain things that governments must do. For instance, in the Agenda 2063, one of the issues is about a skills revolution, so that every person, young person, women, have a skill that they can use to build the continent, that they can use either to get a job or to create jobs. So we are here today in a meeting of entrepreneurs because that's part of building prosperity on the continent. So the skills revolution is critical because most of the people who cross and sometimes drown on the Mediterranean do not have skills, but they think they can work in Europe and get a better euros or pounds. But if we create an environment where young people want to fix the continent, not to escape it, that's number one. The other thing, the continental free trade I've talked about, but also infrastructure.
Okay. And if you could just give me a second, I'm going to take a break because I'm interested in the infrastructure. Next year, February 2026, you're having the Africa Prosperity Dialogues. You are the chairperson of the council. I would ask you, what prosperity is there in this continent that you are dialoguing over? And this is my cynic self asking this question. I want to come back from this.
We're not talking about existing prosperity. We're talking about the prosperity